Hello, everyone, and welcome to another XTIVIA webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. In this session, we're going to walk through how organizations using Databricks can move beyond simply making it work and start running their platform as a true enterprise asset. We'll explore how Insight360 helps uncover hidden inefficiencies, reduce costs, and strengthen governance without disrupting your existing environment. And with that, let's dive in.
Hey, so Kelly, I've been reviewing the progress with our customer, and they've crossed that 3-year mark on the Databricks platform. At this scale, the platform is no longer just a data warehouse, it's their primary engine for innovation.
Exactly, Dennis. But that maturity brings a new set of challenges. When a platform becomes foundational, the complexity often outpaces the oversight. Our customer reached a point where they needed to validate if their growth was actually sustainable and secure.
Right. It's the difference between, getting it to work and running it like an enterprise asset. And so how did we help them bridge that gap?
Well, we deployed the Insight360 Toolkit. It allowed us to move past the anecdotal feedback and get an objective, data-driven health check of their entire ecosystem.
Well, I'm interested in the why behind these checks. Our customers span across finance, healthcare, manufacturing. So how does the toolkit's output change in importance based on the industry?
That's the strength of the 360 approach. The checks are universal, but the risk weight shifts. For our healthcare customers, the governance and security checks are the top priority. Identifying broad grants or overexposed PII, personally identifiable information, isn't just a best practice, it's a HIPAA requirement. For financial services, the MLOps and lineage checks take center stage. When a model determines credit risk or fraud, you need to prove exactly how that model was trained and deployed for regulatory audits. For manufacturing and logistics, it's all about FinOps and job efficiency. If you've got thousands of IoT sensors feeding pipelines, a small inefficiency in a retry logic can translate into a massive unnecessary DBU spike.
So basically, the toolkit provides the same lens, but we help the customer focus on the areas that impact their specific bottom line and compliance needs. Is that correct?
Exactly. With this specific customer, we found a readiness score of 75 out of 100. They had high marks in FinOps because they utilized spot instances and auto-scaling well. However, they scored lower in security due to long-lived tokens and personal sandboxes that had inadvertently turned into production dependencies.
So that's the invisible drift, technical debt that accumulates while everyone is focused on shipping and launching new features.
Sure is.
Well, this is a pretty powerful narrative, but I'd like to see the mechanics. How do we pull these insights without disrupting, a customer's production environment?
Well, that's where Monty Rotroy, our senior technical lead, comes in. Monty, can you show us the engine behind the 360 toolkit?
Thanks, Kelly, Dennis. So the key to Insight360 is that it's non-intrusive. We don't ask the customer's engineers to fill out spreadsheets. We let the metadata tell the story. So we hook into 3 primary sources. The first thing is our Unity catalog and system tables to audit who is touching what data and identify stale data sets that are costing money but are not being used. The second thing is jobs and cluster APIs to find those hidden costs, like jobs that retry 10 times or clusters that stay on long after a task is finished. The third one is the MLflow metadata to check if the models are registered with proper stages and aliases. And as you can see on the dashboard, we don't just say fix everything. We categorize findings by impact and effort. For our customer, we identified that fixing just 3 specific job configurations would reduce their monthly spend by 12% immediately.
Wow. So Manny, the customer gets like a to-do list that's actually backed by their own telemetry?
Yeah, precisely. So it turns a massive optimization project into a series of surgical, high-impact, quick wins.
Wow. So, this is exactly how XTIVIA adds value. We're not just giving them a tool, we're giving them a strategy to scale safely and efficiently.
Yeah, Insight360 doesn't tell you how Databricks should be used. It shows you how it actually is being used so you can focus on building what's next. Think we should take some audience questions?
Sure.
All right, so the first question we got in here, you mentioned the Insight360 toolkit is non-intrusive. Does running these metadata checks put any significant load on our production Databricks clusters or slow down our active pipelines?
That's a great question. But the short answer is no. We are not querying your raw data or running heavy transformation jobs. We primarily interface with the Databricks system tables and APIs. So think of it as looking at the logbook of the engine rather than putting a heavy load on the engine itself. Your production workloads won't even know we are there. It's very minimal.
Okay, thank you so much for that. The next question we've gotten in. Our organization is still in process of migrating to Unity Catalog. Can we still use Insight360, or do we need to be 100% migrated first?
I can take that question. You don't need to be finished with your migration to find value. In fact, that's one of the best times to use it. We can identify shadow data or stale tables in the old Hive metastore that shouldn't be migrated, saving you massive amount of cleanup work later. We help you use the toolkit to build a cleaner roadmap for your Unity catalog journey.
Awesome, okay. And our third question here. Dennis mentioned invisible drift, where personal sandboxes become production dependencies. How do you fix that without slowing down the data scientists who need that freedom to experiment?
Great question, Alex. Really, it's a balancing act. We don't want to kill the innovation engine. The goal of Insight360 isn't to lock everything down. It's to provide visibility. So once we identify a sandbox that has become a dependency, we work with the team to formalize it into a managed environment. So we turn accidental production into intentional production so the data scientists can keep moving without the risk of a system-wide crash.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Our next question here. Manny, you mentioned identifying 3 specific job configurations that save 12% immediately. Without giving away that secret sauce, what are the most common hidden costs you see?
Well, I'll take this question in 2 parts. One is the 3 things, the 3 specific job configuration and the number 12%. So the secret sauce is in our tool is our algorithm, which is AI Optimization Advisor for Insight360. It gives you 2 things. One, it tells you from the check, like these are the 3 things. In this case, it's a 10-node cluster for a 2-node task. So that recommendation is generated by our AI optimization engine. And also the second thing is the inefficient retry logic. The job's failing and restarting in 10 times due to a minor confusion error. And the third one is a stale compute. Now, in our dashboard, we have a idle waste compute metrics, which kind of finds out your stale compute. So we often find always on clusters that stay warm over the weekend when no one is querying them. And this is a big red flag when it comes to cost. Yeah.
All right, and I think we've got time for a couple more questions today. Our next question we've gotten in, is Insight360 a one-time health check, or is this something meant to be run continuously as we grow?
So, Insight360 support both the way of consumption. One is on demand, whenever leadership or executive wants to run it, to see on a fixed schedule, quarterly, monthly, daily, as they prefer. So that just shows you what is happening at that instant. But the tool also has a capability which it allows to run automatically and kind of alerts you for anything critical going wrong. So you want to be notified, and it has a very comprehensive alert mechanism to kind of issue those alerts to you as and when something goes wrong critically.
Okay, and our last question here. What does XTIVIA need from us to get this started? Do we need to grant your team full admin access to our entire cloud environment?
Alex, I'll take this one. So security is our priority. We operate on the principle of least privilege. We typically only need specific read-only access to the metadata and the system tables, as Manny had mentioned. So we're not looking at the PII or your proprietary customer data, just the telemetry of how the platform is performing. We can usually get the initial lens set up in just a matter of days. So we've covered a lot of ground here today, from the high-level industry risk Kelly highlighted to the specific telemetry Manny pulls from the engine. The reality is that your Databricks environment is growing every day. And with that growth comes the invisible drift we talked about. You shouldn't have to choose between moving fast and staying secure or cost-effective. So here's our offer to you. If you're wondering where your readiness score sits, or if you suspect that there's a 20% savings gap hidden in your job configurations, let's find out. It's really easy. Just scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the chat to book a 30-minute Insight360 discovery session. We'll do a high-level review of your current architecture. We'll show you exactly how the toolkit can be deployed in your specific environment without disrupting your production. So don't wait for a compliance audit or a surprise cloud bill to tell you that there's a problem. Let's get ahead of it together. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to helping you scale with confidence. Kelly, Manny, thank you for this deep dive today.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and please come back for another XTIVIA webinar in the future.